And now, the most reasonable talk show host from Sop Choppy to the Redneck Riviera, here is Bob Kerrigan.
And welcome again to Within Reason, here tonight for an hour, taking your calls if you care to call in. One thing that is just becoming increasingly clear, I think, to anybody that's even a casual observer, is the effectiveness of fear. The Republican Party, of course, has understood this for a long time, and underlying Republican policies that have been successful for them in the past, such things as the marriage amendments on the state ballots, all designed to make people afraid of sexual unions between people who are not men and women. Drove a lot of people to the polls. So many people believe it was the factor that elected George W. Bush. And what a great irony. What a great irony. The fear of something that really is not something to be fearful about produced the election of a person who has demonstrated a level of incompetence that's unparalleled in our lifetimes. But the real tragedy of it is that this fear-mongering has created in all of us a sensitivity to danger that is just driving us crazy. I mean, you can't go through an airport now without an announcement being made that we're in a state of orange alert. Now, no one in this country has ever been able to explain what an orange alert is. And there's nobody watching this program tonight, I think even including our security people at the airport, that understand what an orange alert is. We are riddled with fear every day by the Republican administration, and it's become so effective in this country. Hillary's adopted it. I mean, the call at 3 o'clock in the morning, all of the racial implications, it's all designed to create fear. And I think really that's what Obama's been saying, that people are clinging to the things that are important to them, whether it's church or whatever it might be, because of this fear. Should we have a certain level of concern? Of course. But to live in a state of fear, when that means that we're going to elect people like George W. Bush, it's just not good for the country, not good for any of us. So as we hear these things as reasonable citizens, we should evaluate whether the people saying them are trying to make us afraid, and if they are, what do they plan, or how do they benefit by it? Those are reasonable questions we should ask. We should not assume that all of this terrifying stuff that's coming out is designed to help us or protect us or do anything other than to create a state of fear, which will then allow an exploitation of that fear. On the flap about Reverend Wright, which the Clinton campaign really tried to exploit, that is what a preacher said in a church in a sermon that offended people, as somehow that was Obama's responsibility. He said he wasn't there when whatever offensive thing was said. You know, this guy, Reverend Wright, among other things, was a Marine. He received a number of commendations as a Marine. And the people making the charge, people like Cheney and Rumsfeld and others, all ran from military service. Cheney got 5 deferments. So what is it? I mean, he served his country. He's expressed strong opinions, as Dr. Martin Luther King did, negative opinions about the United States. Don't we need that, though? Do we really need everybody wrapped up in the flag telling us how they love this country more than anything ever under any circumstances? No, you don't fall in love with your country, okay? You're a citizen of the country. You abide by the rules of the country, and you fight and to protect the Constitution, particularly of this country, because it is the framework of our freedom, and it is the vehicle by which we have these protected freedoms. That That's what you admire and care for. But it's just troubling to me to see this shallow, shallow patriotism. It's not really patriotism at all. Slapping a sticker on a car that's getting 8 miles to the gallon, or SUV. I've said it before. So what does that prove? That proves you're really solid, rock solid behind the troops. No, you're not. If you were, you'd be advocating vigorously for those that are coming back that don't have adequate care, that Bush has avoided, repeatedly avoided any real fiscal or financial commitment to our returning veterans. That's not in the cards. He's not done that. He won't do that. He doesn't care about that. If you really cared about our troops, you'd be vigorously arguing to help them and protect them. And you'd want people like Rumsfeld called on the carpet for not ordering properly armored Humvees, for putting our men and women in harm's way without adequate equipment and adequate protection. That's what you should be screaming about, not slapping a yellow ribbon on your car and saying how much you love the troops. Because it's a lot more than talk. You know, walk the walk. Don't talk the talk. Walk the walk. This is from the Philadelphia Daily News, but it was dated Monday. And it said, tonight, this is from Will Bunch. I had the opportunity to ask Barack Obama a question that is on the minds of many Americans, and yet rarely rises to the surface in the great ruckus of the 2008 presidential race, and that is whether an Obama administration would seek to prosecute officials of a former Bush administration on the revelations that they green-lighted torture or for other potential crimes that took place in the White House. Obama said that as president, he would indeed ask his new attorney general and his deputies to immediately review the information that's already there and determine if an inquiry is warranted, but he also tread carefully on the issue in line with his reputation for seeking to bridge the partisan divide. He worried that such a probe could be spun as a partisan witch hunt. However, he said that equation changes if there was willful criminality because nobody is above the law. But when you have the President of the United States signing documents called signing statements, saying that he will not be bound by the law that has been passed, and he's done it, I think, over 700 times, literally saying he is above the law, he will do whatever he wants to do, and no one is going to do anything about it. Now, that in and of itself doesn't constitute a criminal violation of the law, but it does demonstrate a disregard and disrespect for the law because they're above the law. He thinks he's above the law. And people in the administration who took that position may have violated criminal laws, thinking that they were not responsible for adhering to any law that got in the way of anything that they wanted to do, including discussions of violations of our own anti-torture statutes and laws by discussing how they were going to torture individual suspects. John Ashcroft is reported to have said that he was very uncomfortable that they were meeting in the White House to discuss individual torture techniques that were apparently being demonstrated by people at the time. And who was there? Condoleezza Rice, Dick Cheney, etc. Hope you'll join us next week on Within Reason, and thanks for watching.